Okay, let's take a look at this Pillage rulebook. First, initial thoughts. It's a good hardback book, A4 size. That's the cover. Many of you will have seen it by Victrix. Let's get it open. The pages are nice quality. Comes in at 131 pages, and what is good is it's got an index. They're always helpful within rule sets, covering all the aspects of the game you're going to need. Brief foreword, generalities, game turn, how the go goes together, the different phases, movements, charging. It's all here. What is nice, and I'll mention later on, is the advanced rules, which cover different bits and pieces with looting, buildings, warships and naval battles and things. My a personal gripe: factions. It mentions factions. Let me just do this. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I understand it's the new way of doing things, and describing things as factions rather than forces or tribes or armies or anything of that nature. But it is that. And then a section at the back, collecting, introduction to the hobby, preparing, painting, tools and assembling. Again, if you're new to gaming, miniature gaming, tabletop gaming, they're a handy section to have. Also, for those of us who are a little older in the hobby, it's always nice to look at these things and see them, and you never know. There's always tips and things. You know, it's you're never too old to keep learning. Obviously, this is a skirmish game. It's generally used. The club where I'm at, we're sort of about 20 figures a go on each side, which is manageable. I know some people prefer the larger games, and I certainly do prefer a larger game. But on a club night where you've got a couple of hours to play, it's nice to have a small scale game that you can actually start and finish in one evening. It states here at the front, a simple set of rules. They are very simple. Simple's perhaps puts it down slightly. They're nice and easy to play. They're nice and quick to pick up. The mechanics are, it's a D6 mechanic for pretty much all the roles. It's also very, very similar to the Lord of the Rings games. People I know have mentioned it, and there are some similarities. So if you've been used to playing that, you should pick this up fairly quickly. And in fairness, if you've been gaming and whatever else for a while, then picking it up it won't be too bad at all. Has an interesting section on a brief outline of the history. Again, not everybody coming into this game or the hobby in general will have a great deal of historical knowledge of the era that this is set. So the sort of early Middle Ages, Dark Age period, however you want to describe it. And again, it will run through some of the background, bit of a timeline of what was going on during those years. Again, interesting for those who may not be used to this sort of level of history. Section here on early medieval warrior, just a basic outline. What sort of things were these guys wearing? How were they armed? How were they equipped? Again, aimed at a beginner, but nice to see. It's good that the book covers a great many things. As with a lot of the newer rule sets, a layout showing you how a game could look, not necessarily should. It'd be nice to a lot of the games I've played to have a board made of like this sort of thing to do it. As for the size of the board, they are very small. The games that I've seen played at my local club are no more than 2 feet by 2 feet. And again, it even mentions here right in the corner, you know, typical 48 by 48. So it's that sort of small size, and with sort of 20 figures or so on each side, it's you don't need a massive amount of playing area, and obviously that then reduces the amount of terrain you need, which is a bit of a win and ideal for club nights. Runs through the contents of the book, rules, historical sidebars that they've added on, which are nice. Little, as we'll go through, you know, and I won't go through the full 131 pages. Don't panic. We'll be here for hours. The little historical tidbits that you'll come across as you go through it. One of the key rules that I find or have found is what you see is what you get. That's useful for looking at a skirmish. So if you see a guy, for example, with a spear and a shield and some armor, well, that's what he's got. Shield, hand weapon, no armor, that's what he's got. There's, you know, none of the oh well, this guy's fully armored but he's actually just got a dagger. It is what you see is what you get, and that's nice. One thing I will say is going through these rules, you can only have one hand weapon. So you can't, for example, have a Viking berserker with 2 hand weapons rushing around. Nope, one hand weapon. You can have a double-handed weapon, you can have shields, you can have armor, but only one hand weapon, which I find interesting, as some of the models you can make with some of the Victrix sets, you can give them 2 hand weapons, but maybe that will change. Again, going through the basic mechanics, so everything is a D6, with the various modifiers. One thing I will say as well is there are lots of nice pictures through this. Like them or not, you know, some of the older rule sets, you know, were just the text and the odd illustrative diagram, but these have, you know, some nice pictures of the painted Victrix miniatures, which some people like, some don't. Here we've got one of the little historical pieces. Origin of the Viking raids. There are those scattered throughout. Obviously the 2 types of troops within this, cavalry and infantry. There were, you know, nothing more. But again, it explains through that. And again, that word factions, we'll move on from that. Then we start going into game phases, game turn. And again, it just runs through how it all works. Initiative phase, movement phase, shooting phase, melee phase, fire phase. The fire phase is actual setting fire to things, and how that acts and interacts in the game. Obviously, it's designed as a pillage, a Viking raid type thing, or a Saxon raid, or whatever sort of raiding you wish to do, which is nice. It's an interesting different bit. Movement, something that is interesting is it's not a new mechanic, but it's got the armor reduces movement, which makes sense. If anybody's tried on a set of chainmail, it's heavy. You add in a shield and a helmet and a hand weapon, you're not perhaps as nimble as somebody who's just clutching a sword. So you have unarmored, some armor, and full armor. Some armor, you've either got a padded shirt, a mail shirt, or a shield, but not both. If you have both, you're wearing full armor. That's the interesting distinction. And they obviously reduce your movement for cavalry and foot as well. Again, not a new mechanic, but certainly new, also something different for this sort of thing. Terrain, how they affect, outlining what terrain is what, how it deals with movement over terrain, the costs, roads, the bonuses you get for going onto and moving around on roads, shooting, charging, line of sight. Again, it's all covered with illustrative diagrams as well to emphasize the points, which again is useful. You've then also got things such as, well, I say, in the advanced rule sections, swimming, going across water, climbing up, ladders and whatever else. It's all covered. It seems to have a few elements that are more D&D type thing, which some people may like, some people may not. And again, more of the lovely pictures of the Victrix miniatures. Combat, how you're hitting. Again, you're effectively D6 rolls on all of it. More history, shooting. Again, well illustrated throughout. They are easy to pick up, outlining the weapons you can have. You know, bows, crossbows, javelins, slings. That's it. I suspect if they added on later periods, they may well include, you know, English longbow and things of that nature. But this is just, you know, sticking to bows, crossbows. And again, who can shoot, how they shoot. Volley fire is an interesting rule where you can have, well, it says here, can be used by 4 or more figures with bows in a group. None of the archers in the group can have moved, and a group is formed when all the archers are within 2 inches. And essentially, you pick a point and you're firing, and then each figure, both enemy and allied, within 3-inch radius of the volley fire marker, suffers a hit on a roll of a 6. Not necessarily the best, but if you've got a large group of people and you're effectively shooting 4 archers, then you've got the potential for hitting a lot more folks, but slightly harder. Again, certainly an interesting little rule, and something that I've not seen in other skirmish sets that I've played. More pictures. Combat, who fights, how they fight, types of weapon you can have. Again, rolling to hit, defense roll, and result. It is very, very simple. I hate that word. Very easy mechanics. Nice and fast. And you can pick them up fairly quickly. Double-handed weapons, Dane axes, spears, how they can support, which is nice. They also have, you know, again, if you're behind an obstacle, if you're up a hill, pushing people back, people falling over or falling off cliffs and whatever else, it's all covered. One interesting thing is you can form shield wall as well. I'll find that. Cavalry, how they operate. And it obviously, you know, they're slightly more powerful in combat. You're dealing with a horse and a man, but the horses can be killed and the guy ends up dismounted, or they can dismount. So you've got plenty of options for horses. And then the fire phase, who's setting fire to things. A unique, I've not come across this in games that I've played before, setting fire to different bits and pieces, which again, just something different, something interesting to try. And then how fire reacts within the game, how it spreads, the damage, and things, just all you need. Again, illustrated and covered with some nice pictures. Morale, obviously people don't fight forever, and again, we'll just run through. If your chieftain, the leader of your force, is killed, then you know, morale, or if you've lost 50%. And then it's done individually, which is nice. And again, roll of 1, off they go. 2 to sticks, they hang on in there. These rules are for finding loot, for pillaging. Again, this is set up for if you've got a scenario or you're searching a village for you know, valuables and gold and whatever else. And Victrix do actually make some valuables, you know, treasures and bits and pieces as well that you can use in the game, which is nice. So it is fairly supportive. Again, all the rules connected to that. Buildings play a part in any skirmish game, certainly if you're raiding villages, you know, moving through, how many you can fit in, fighting within them, seeing into and out of, and then fortified buildings and things of that nature. Special characters, chieftains. Every force is led by a chieftain, or call them a warlord or a general, however you like, but these guys are calling them chieftains. So again, it runs through how they work and operate in the game, how many hit points, how many wounds they can take before they're removed, how many attacks they can use, and their morale. So you can also have talents, which again are also covered. Goes through the different types of troops you can have. Berserkers. These I think are interesting. They're from going through the lists, something that the Vikings have access to. Again, even here you can see the guy's got two-hand weapons, but it says earlier in the rules about you can only have one, which again is well, it is what it is. They can also take hallucinogenic mushrooms, an interesting mechanic for berserkers to have, and makes them fairly thematic. Huskals, healers, medics within most games, to be fair. You can they can help and whatever else. And again, Huskals, nice elite troops. Yeah. Supply wagons, special equipment, banners. Banners are obviously people carrying banners and flags and things, focal points for the game. And again, they have morale benefits, as it says here. Figures within 6 inches of a banner automatically succeed on their morale roll. So again, they're useful. Warhorn. This is interesting. Anybody within 6 inches of it, they add 2 inches to their movement. The sound of a trumpet hurrying the folks up, which is nice. I think just again, my looking at how the game is played, Warhorn with some berserkers, getting them rushing into combat quicker. That seems to be a nice little combination. Warhounds, something that's an interesting little quirk. You've got people who have a pack of war dogs and off they go. How they operate. Again, thematic for that sort of era of history. And here we are, some of the special rules. As I mentioned earlier, Shield Wall, where your guys, now the game there, everybody's an individual, but this is one era where you can, the guys form up to create that classic Dark Age Shield Wall, which is again another interesting mechanic, and encourages you to perhaps think about how you're deploying your troops, and where and how they'll all work. And again, for some of the armies here, it really fits in with the theme. Now, this is another interesting section. It covers ships and naval battles. Again, obviously the Vikings did a lot of raiding, a lot of bits and pieces on boats, so they're covered here, and how that all works. I won't cover it in any detail, but no, that's an interesting and way of doing it. If you're using this scenario, or even as a companion, or even just if you want to make a one-off interesting game, add in weather. Again, whether it will be used, we've not really used it at the club thus far, but I suspect as we become more comfortable with the rules, we will. Factions. Now this is the section, effectively the army lists, which is nice that it's included within the book. Rather than using points, it's called gold. So everything costs a gold piece. So that's points basically. So 10 gold pieces are noted as 10 GP. That's the basic thing. Think of it as points, think of it as gold, however you wish. Covering the restrictions, how many banners, war horns, ranged weapons, your slings, javelins, bows, crossbows, things of that nature. And then a list of talents that are open to talents for the chieftains. So again, there's a list that you're able to choose from to tailor your chieftain to your own personal tastes, and some of them are limited to certain groups, factions. I don't like the word, you may have picked up on that. So again, they are all covered within this section, and there's some interesting ones to pick from. Again, more of the lovely artwork and pictures. We then move into the army lists. They're incredibly simple. The troop type that you can have, the points cost or gold pieces, and then the cost of adding armor, shield, and then the weapons, ranged weapons, and any special equipment they're entitled to have. all covered for each of the different forces available. So you have Vikings, or Norse, Anglo-Saxons, Normans, Irish, Scots and Picts, covered with one list. Again, you've got specific force rules. Irish, Scots and Picts can't form shield walls. Normans ignore the effects of heavy rain, things like that. Again, to tailor to your specific force that you're raising. Carolingian Franks, Bretons, Welsh, and then they have one here, I think it's the last one, it is generic. Effectively, you cannot be any of the nations, you can just be a Dark Age warband, and away you go. So again, you've got, so you can all have, you know, warriors, chieftains, berserkers, huskars, healers, and they are not aligned to anything, and so you miss out on some of the force specific talents and things, but you're able to then have a generic sort of force that you can play. As it says here, you know, another way to ensure forces are balanced is to have two warbands built the same way. Loses a little charm, but it's great fun. So you know that you're effectively, you know, everybody can only pick from this list, and away it goes, which is nice. Then we have a section on playing the game. So if you've got several players, you know, if you want to do a 2, 3, you know, a 4, 5, 6 or whatever number of people within the game, how that plays and is organised. I'm not so sure about this, but it's nice that it's included. You know, you playing against one person works. I accept that if you've got a larger game and you've got more people involved, you know, 2 or 3 sort of war bands or whatever, then it's useful to have rules that help govern that. Scenarios. Again, this is where it seems to have been aimed at, rather than just a you line up, I line up, and we clash. That there's some sort of theme and scenario to it. Playing area, number of points or gold pieces suggested, and obviously the more points you're using, the larger the playing area they recommend. You know, you don't want 20 figures running around on a 6x4 table or something. It would be it would take a while. Then we have their own section of scenarios, which you can work yourself through with the usual layout of terrain, weather conditions, victory conditions, deployment, map, etc, etc. And there are all the way up to five scenarios to work through, and again, they're clearly laid out, telling you what you should do. Yeah, nice. Again, just adds a little bit of charm, rather than just we're rushing at each other over the table. Then this is the bit at the end where perhaps some of the older people will, you know, more experienced in the hobby will not necessarily flick through. But again, this reminds me of the early, and we're sort of talking 3rd edition Warhammer stuff, and other rule sets have covered it as well. You know, collecting where, you know, what to do with the miniatures, what kit you need, what tools, assembling, painting, basing. It's all covered here. Again, very simple, and there's some nice and easy painting guides. Undercoating, base coating, washing, basing, and then again, nice pictures. Making a gaming table, modular terrain. I mean, it's covered. It covers everything you're going to need. It really is a one-stop shop. You pick it up, you go through it, and you've got wattle fencing. It's the list of things in here is, I'm not going to say endless, but it's really good. Fields, bushes, trees. It's all covered. Yep, buildings. Paniscaras for thatch. Make it the cardboard. Yes, you can have, you know, MDF buildings and things. And I generally like to use a chopped up flannel to do the thatching on the roof. But again, this covers it all. Infinite possibilities, as they say, to create all you need. And then lastly, it is literally, covers the tokens, the final bit, joining their Facebook group, and away it goes. And that is the end of the book. And that's the rear cover. So yeah, all in all, I like it. Is it too simple? Is there such a thing? It's certainly easy to learn, great for beginners, good for a club night. You can get a game in, and it's good fun. I think if this is a period you'd like to get into, it's probably a good gateway into it. And certainly at our club, we're going to have a few games come the new year. I think it's talk of a little tournament. So I'm looking forward to it. As I get more games under my belt with it, I'll certainly be able to give people an update on the socials and things. So yeah, that's my initial thoughts on Pillage. Is it worthwhile? Yes. Not the cheapest of games, but I like it. I'm glad I've got it and will enjoy playing it. So yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed that one. Thanks so much for watching. Again, don't forget to sort of like, subscribe and everything. Follow us on social media, PaintsDB pretty much everywhere. And yeah, bye for now, and till next time.